to provide for separation of lung turbines. Not 1.5 times the rotor width. 6, proposed provisions regarding maximum vibrations and low frequency sound should be reviewed by an appropriate sound professional to determine their effects and location of all turbines. Now that, I'm going to suggest that we apply that one to all sound measurements, not just low frequency. There's so much discussion, I don't think we're going to resolve the sound issue tonight. So the DBA and the DBC should be, the township should have their own person that they hire for that purpose to review the requirements of the ordinance as it is. A couple other comments. And one other comment. It's pointed out to me that the state offers now this dispute resolution procedure from the State Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. I don't know, it's a new program, and mediators will come to the township to offer dispute resolutions when there are differences in different parties. Things like sound levels and sound levels and shadow flicker or whatever regulations we have. So that service is available in the township everywhere. It's new and it might provide that. It's not binding. It's just a matter of suggestions. Maybe it'll help. That's all.
Okay. It's about 6:30. I would like to take an hour or so to discuss this and for people to discuss it and to come up with a thing I would like to ask. And I guess, Tim, if you have are able to, I would like to just, as you come up and speak, if you just give us your name and your address. Appreciate that. And yes.
Could I, a couple, or one party has requested additional time. If they are speaking for a group, and they have additional time, maybe 10 minutes or something, maybe that will, maybe that they will say things others will, so we don't
So that person would think that they might need to add a group. I'm quite a hand to bend, just I just don't break. That means I probably would allow that person to do that and you know, I would hope that that discussion would just be in general and not be on one side or the other, because if it does, then we're going to have to get equal time. And the first thing we're going to have two sheriff deputies just keep track of the time.
Well, it is on one side, but I was thinking, I understand that possibly, maybe the person from ICC could be allowed to speak for 10 minutes, and perhaps the developers could be allowed to speak for more than 3 minutes.
Yeah, and if we can each, on each side, but then on a break there, because the first thing you know, somebody's going to forget something. As correct as we all are, and as stringent as we might be on how we think or feel, and we tend to forget something.
Mm-hmm.
So this meeting's not going to be perfect because we're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to try to make it as near that as we can. So let's just say that we'll let each side speak for 10 minutes. Hopefully, if I do that, I'll cut down the rest of it a little bit, and we don't have everybody's minutes. Maybe some people that will be said. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, who did you have asked first?
Kevin.
Okay, very good. kind of raised my hand to do this, that means it's time to go up there. Thank you.
My hand is up.
Yes, Chair.
These are the support documents that we found. There's also a property value guarantee, a copy of the IIC red line ordinance. We can post it now.
Name and address.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Martis, 11917 Wagner Road, Riga Township. I'm the former Vice Chairman of the Riga Township Planning Commission. I'm also the former Vice Chairman of the Lenawee County Rural Land Use Committee. I'm presently the Director of the IICC. The IICC is a locally funded grassroots organization comprised of citizens from Riga, Ogden, Palmyra, and Sylvania Townships, and we're dedicated to the responsible siting of industrial wind turbines in our region. We are not opposed to wind turbines in our region. As a former Vice Chairman of the Riga Planning Commission, I was integrally involved in the drafting of the proposed ordinance amendment, and I'm intimately familiar with the rationale for the language as finally presented. While I appreciate the difficult task before this body tonight and Region 2, the IICC has several significant concerns about Mr. Anderson's memorandum and the recommendations concerning Riga's ordinance. We also have a couple of things we request that you might consider recommending as additions. In any land use decision, the decision makers must establish a proper rationale for their policy decisions. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act makes it very clear that the first criterion that must be satisfied in any decision is the protection of health, safety, and welfare. Furthermore, as a planning professional, it's always been my understanding that the proposed land use can be shown to harm the health, safety, and/or welfare of the citizens. Not only may that land use be excluded, it must be excluded if it cannot be cited in such a manner as to mitigate the ill effects associated with the proposed use. I have presented to numerous groups across the state of Michigan regarding responsible wind turbine siting. During that time, I've encountered a number of false rationales that developers and politicians alike use in an effort to skirt the many known negative impacts associated with irresponsible siting of industrial wind turbines too closely to residential properties. These false rationales include 1, preservation of agricultural land, 2, creation of tax revenue for counties and townships, 3, job creation, economic development, and 4, the renewable energy portfolio standard. While these may be desirable goals, none of these goals is more important than the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Lenawee County. Protecting agricultural land from being developed is certainly not more important than protecting people, especially in light of the fact that the farmers essentially have complete control over whether or not their land remains agricultural. Increasing tax revenue is not more important than protecting people, as the entire purpose of that tax revenue is to provide citizens with protections and services they cannot provide themselves. The same holds true for economic development. Are we willing to sacrifice the health, safety, and welfare of our thousands of Lenawee County residents to create 6 to 8 jobs? The answer should be a resounding no. And finally, the RPS is certainly not more important than the protection of health, safety, and welfare. The goal of the RPS is to protect us from greenhouse gases, and we do that at the expense of the health, safety, and welfare of our own citizens. There are many topics in Mr. Anderson's memorandum that we agree with, such as the need for clear defined protocols for testing sound, shadow flicker, etc. For the purpose of brevity, we'll just make a few comments about the issues that Tim referred to. Sound limits, Tim already mentioned that, in fact, the sound limit in Emmett County is 35 decibels now. Paragraph 4, page 7 also suggests, among other things, that the typical range of permissible turbine noise levels is between 45 and 60. That's not quite the entire story. Huron County began with 50 decibels. After 10 families brought suit against the developers in that area, they dropped the standards to 45 and 1320. The MPSC, the meetings we've been attending up there, they're considering, the Health Impacts Committee is considering offering a range anywhere from 40 to 50 for new turbine noise levels. Ottawa County Planning, Michigan has a 2008 model ordinance that recommends a nighttime noise limit of ambient +5. In Ogden Township, that will probably be somewhere between 30 and 35 decibels. Centerville Township has adopted language that restricts turbine noise during the hours of 10 to 6 to no more than 3 dBA above existing ambient. Again, going to be in the low to mid-30s. State of Oregon has a 36 decibel noise limit across the state for all industrial activity. They still build turbines there. Dr. McConey is one of the co-authors of the American and Canadian Wind Energy Association white paper entitled Wind Turbine Sound and Health Effects, an Expert Panel Review. So this is the Wind Energy Association's lead sound guy, who originally concluded there'd be no health effects at a 45 or 50 decibel limit. He now, in Vermont this spring, conceded if it were his home, if it was his home in the vicinity of a wind farm, he would want the noise levels to be kept below 35 decibels, something along those lines, maybe 40. Again, that's the American Wind Energy Association's lead noise expert. Although industrial wind turbines are new to our area, they've been used in Europe for decades. As a result of that experience, European nations have developed sound limits to prevent further negative impacts to their citizens. France, 5 dBA above ambient daytime, 3 dBA at night. Australia, the higher of 35 or L90 plus 5. Germany, 40. Holland, 40. These are common numbers in the places where they have a lot of experience with wind turbines. It should also be noted that the manufacturer of the turbines proposed for Lenawee County has a policy, and you have a copy of it in the documentation I gave you, where they say, quote, Vestas recommends relative noise limits that take into account local background noise levels where new wind turbines are sited near existing ones. Already present turbine noise should not be calculated as part of the background noise. Vestas believes this type of regulation is the most effective and flexible, and it ensures minimal noise disturbance for wind turbine neighbors while allowing turbines to be located in relatively noisy areas, with industry or roads, for example, that are rich in wind resources. Vestas also recommends that governments supplement relative noise limits with a low absolute maximum limit in areas of very low background noise, for instance, the quiet countryside, which ensures minimal noise disturbance for turbine neighbors also in these places. That's the manufacturer of the turbines themselves. Setbacks, as Tim guessed, we would take issue with the 520 or 700 foot setback. There's many reasons for setbacks. One is it's expensive to bring in a sound expert to measure to measure noise levels. If you have a physical setback distance that pretty much guarantees those limits, it's easy to establish at the planning stage that at a half mile you're not going to have a noise impact. You don't ever have to bring an expert in to verify that later. It's already established. With small cash-strapped townships, it's expensive to bring in noise experts at 10, 20, 30,000 bucks a whack. How do you recover those costs of enforcement? Setbacks protect property values. I furnished a study in there that's just published in March, pretty consistent with other studies we've seen, showing within 2 miles of the turbines you can see anywhere from 15 to 45% loss of property values. Some homes inside your cluster of turbines can become unmarketable. When you're looking in Lenawee County, maybe 250 turbines as proposed by 3 different developers across 2.5 townships. That's significant. It's about 100 square miles at the rate of 2.5 to 3 turbines per mile. Setbacks protect against the nuisance of shadow flicker. The American Wind Energy Association recognizes that beyond 1.2 miles setback, there's not much issue with shadow flicker. But the people within 984 feet are likely to see more than 200 hours of shadow flicker per year. Fourth, turbine manufacturer requires personal protective equipment be worn by employees if they are within 1,300 feet of a turbine. So imagine if you have one 560 or 600 feet from your home, the employee of the wind company would be expected to put on hard hat, safety glasses, and steel-toed shoes to enter a radius of 1,300 feet, even though your home may be half that distance from the turbine. They say in the event of malfunction or fire, retreat to a radius of 1,300 feet. How would my children even be able to identify a malfunctioning turbine? Or a farmer farming around the base? Will they offer courses to identify that? The manufacturer of the turbine recommends something far beyond 1.1 to 1.5 for safety. We see that in quiet rural areas, we see a number of setbacks that are much larger. Germany, about 1 mile. That's based on a noise limit. Ontario, about 1,800 feet. Trempealeau County, Wisconsin, 1 mile. Uniontown, Wisconsin, half mile. Woodville, Wisconsin, half mile, etc. Clay Base Township, Michigan, they're looking at 3,000 feet. So the half-mile setback proposed in Riga is really reasonable. And I'm going to make this comment off the cuff. The purpose of that half-mile, quarter-mile setback arrangement was, it was the opinion, at least when I was on the Planning Commission, nobody should be obligated to give a free nuisance or safety easement to a developer, that you should be compensated for that loss of the use of your property. But the developers prefer not to compensate for that loss of use. They recognize the impacts can extend out a reasonable distance. By making that negotiable with a waiver, the developer has the option of reaching out to each non-participant and saying, I would like to compensate you for the loss of quality of life. Remember, most people in our townships are living between 25 and 30 decibel noise limits at night. Nobody ever came to the Ragged Township Planning Commission and said, it's too quiet here, could you raise the nighttime noise by 15 dBA? The light coming through my windows at night is too steady, could you make it flicker once a second, or once, 3 times a minute? The property values are too stable, could you build large industrial structures next to our home and put the grave doubt into that equation?